Welcome to Tokyo Wave, recorded in a live studio in Harajuku, Japan, with your hosts Aaron and Parker. Alright everyone, welcome to episode 67 of Tokyo Wave. We are your hosts Aaron Randall
and Parker Allen. On Tokyo Wave, we bring you weekly updates from our studio in Harajuku.
Join us in segments featuring this week's top news,
Political happenings,
business,
and other random garbage.
Here are this week's top news highlights.
Japan and the US get heads up on reopening of North-South Korea communications line.
Toyota holds onto crown as world's best-selling automaker.
Japanese educators thought golf party amid pandemic was okay as the Olympics are being held.
This week in Japan. Alright, our first story. Japan and the US get heads up on reopening of North-South Korea communications line.
Kyodo News has reported that South Korea informed Japan and the United States via diplomatic channels before announcing earlier this week its agreement with North Korea to restore inter-Korean communications lines.
The advance notice about the July 27th announcement signals the government of President Moon Jae-in placing importance on cooperation with the United States and Japan on North Korea issues, despite having strained ties with Tokyo over wartime labor and other historical issues.
The Biden administration is currently working to restore relations with its allies that frayed under the Trump administration and has attached importance to the trilateral framework involving the United States and its key Asian allies.
South Korea also said that Moon and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un have agreed to improve inter-Korean ties, with Pyongyang's state-run Korean Central News Agency reporting that the leaders of the two Koreas, quote, agreed to make a big stride in recovering the mutual trust and promoting reconciliation by restoring the communication lines.
With North Korea keeping its borders closed due to the coronavirus pandemic, South Korea hopes to hold inter-Korean consultations online.
It remains to be seen whether the North would agree to hold substantive talks on such issues as the pandemic response and the possible rebuilding of an inter-Korean liaison office, which North Korea blew up with explosives in June last year.
I actually just saw video of this as I was looking into this article. Literally, they lined it with C4. It went boom like an old hotel in Las Vegas.
It's just the Joker card. I feel, any good news we hear about, North and South reuniting or talking again, talks between the US and North Korea, the next day, boom, there's a missile threat. Don't forget, we can blow your ass up.
Surprise. Well, I always feel like North Korea is almost like this big scary guy in prison. They'll just do crazy shit just so that we're crazy.
He's like that guy in the movies, in gangster movies too, even if you're friends with him and you make a deal with him, he'll still punch you in the face, and give you a broken nose.
Forget about it.
Yeah. You're still my homeboy, but don't pull that shit again.
Yeah, and it's funny because this building that they literally blew up was their building inside North Korea.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So it was like they blew up their own building, basically just to say F you to South Korea.
Yeah.
I don't even know why that makes sense.
It must be all part of their propaganda cycle,
It was a shitty building anyway.
We gotta turn up the hate.
Boom. Meanwhile, everybody's starving, dying of coronavirus.
Oh my god.
We just decided to blow up a building because y'all pissed us off, brah. Meanwhile, nuclear talks between the United States and North Korea remains stalemated after a summit meeting in Hanoi, Vietnam, where no buildings were detonated between Trump and Kim, which ended with no deal in February 2019. It is unclear whether the latest improvement in North-South ties could lead to a restart of the US-North Korea talks.
Observers say North Korea could harden its stance once the United States and South Korea hold a joint military exercise in a scaled-down manner this summer, despite the North Korean demand that it be called off. Pyongyang has denounced such exercises as preparations for invasion.
North Korea had cut off the inter-Korean communication lines in June 2020 in retaliation for anti-Pyongyang leaflets that defector groups had sent over the border from South Korea by balloon. And this was, of course, what they did right before they blew up their own building because, these leaflets were apparently very rude.
Yeah, and they also included the newest BTS single.
Oh, I would blow up a building over that.
This sounds too good. Blow up that building.
What's their really big hit right now?
Butter. Butter's like, it was number one in America. Yeah.
You say butter, we say bomb.
This is our way of communicating. Up next, Toyota holds onto Crown as world's best-selling automaker.
Kyodo News also reported that Toyota Motor remained the world's best-selling automaker with a record 5.4 million vehicles sold for the first 6 months of 2021, outpacing its German arch-rival Volkswagen.
So this is the second year in a row that Toyota has been the world's top automaker in the first half, underscoring its sharp recovery from the initial fallout from the coronavirus pandemic and relative resilience despite a global chip crunch.
Toyota's previous sales record for the first half of a year was set in 2019 with about 5.3 million units sold globally.
Toyota has enjoyed robust sales in its key markets such as the United States and China. A Toyota official said the automaker has been able to, quote, limit the impact of the global semiconductor shortage.
So this figure of 5.4 million vehicles for Toyota in the January to June period makes for a 31% increase in sales from a year earlier. This figure includes those vehicles sold by K-Car small vehicle manufacturing subsidiary Daihatsu Motor, as well as truck manufacturing subsidiary Hino Motors.
During the same period, Volkswagen, I can't do the German. Volkswagen! During the same period, Volkswagen sold 4.9 million vehicles, up 27.9% from a year earlier.
In the 6 months to June, strong demand for new models in North America and China lifted Toyota's overseas sales to a record 4.3 million units, which is a 36% year-on-year jump.
Locally, in the Japan domestic market, Toyota reported a 15% gain in sales to 1.17 million vehicles.
Just last year in 2020, Toyota reclaimed its crown as the top-selling automaker from Volkswagen for the first time in 5 years.
The global shortage of chips has forced automakers including Toyota and Volkswagen to curb production, casting a shadow over the auto industry. The pandemic has been boosting demand for semiconductors used in a variety of products from laptops and game consoles to cars, and also the vaccine.
Chips?
The silicon from the chips is used to store the vaccine.
Oh, and also they have to put the little tiny Bill Gates chip inside the vaccine too, right?
Yeah, that's the other reason as well. Yeah. This is impressive though. I have some friends that are trying to buy a laptop in the US, and it's just impossible right now. I think Apple is one of the only companies that has really done a good job safeguarding against this chip shortage. It's interesting to hear Toyota has done so well as well.
I think that with these higher sales figures for Toyota, I think this has a larger implication for the auto industry as well, as we're seeing the economy in several countries, especially the United States, really rebound after the pandemic. Ironically, even though we're still kind of in the pandemic.
Right.
Basically, consumers have decided, you know what, COVID, screw it, let's buy stuff.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I mean, no doubt the demand is skyrocketing right now. So I mean, this sounds like a good stock pick for the week, I think, Toyota.
Most definitely. One is interesting though, because obviously Toyota is doing really well, but most of that is coming from overseas.
Right.
And I guess the question for the economy, the economic outlook for the region, and especially Japan, is when is Japan going to see this sort of, late stage pandemic economic boom that everyone else seems to be having?
Right.
Pretty please with sugar on top. We want to make money too.
Yeah. Open the country back up, guys. That's the quickest way. Quickest way to more corona.
What about those vaccine passports though?
Ooh, yeah. I'm hoping I can get one of those soon.
Yeah, but the thing is, in April this year, the United States said we will not make a nationwide vaccine passport. So if Japan and the US wanted to have some sort of mutual something or other system, they would have to negotiate with individual states, I think.
Oh, God. Yeah. Being from Florida, I already know what Florida's answer to that is.
Well, Alabama made it illegal to make a vaccine passport. Did you hear about this?
No, but Alabama, just shaking my head right now.
We have an anti-vaccine passport here in Alabama.
Coming here talking about that vaccine passport, boy, you better watch your mouth. Somebody might come out with a shotgun and shoot you in the face, and that is completely legal here in the state of Alabama.
Unlike vaccines, goddammit. I'm sorry, Mr. Shitty Boy. This shotgun shell doesn't have any Bill Gates chips inside of it. It's got lots of lead, though. And up next, Japanese educators under fire after stating that they thought a golf party during the pandemic was okay as the Olympics are being held.
The Mainichi has reported that about 12 educators, including executives of the Yamanashi Prefectural Board of Education, played golf and had lunch together on July 25th, despite the governor's request to refrain from dining in large groups as an infection prevention measure.
An executive who participated in the golf excursion explained, "Well, the Tokyo Olympics is being held by implementing thorough infection prevention measures. We decided if we also took similar measures, we could play golf, which is also a sport, you see. I looked it up on Wikipedia."
According to the Prefectural Education Board, 3 board members, including the chief of its Health and Physical Education Division and the vice head of the Chuhoku Education Office, and former teachers played at a golf course in the prefecture from 8:30 a.m. to around 2:30 p.m. on July 25th. Participants also had lunch together in between for about an hour. Following that, they all kissed each other on the lips.
That was after the golf party.
Yeah.
In between karaoke songs. Remember that one?
Make Tanaka kiss Hiroshi.
Wasn't that like a KO researcher group?
Yeah, that was the doctors.
Yeah,
they were
yeah.
just drunk and played some game and forced each other to kiss each other during the freaking pandemic.
Oh, those are the days.
Yeah.
And of course, that sort of thing doesn't make headlines anymore because everybody's doing it now. Idiots. So the Board of Education golf team reportedly took virus prevention measures, as in they wore masks, disinfected their hands, checked their temperature, and had a masked meal, where they kept their masks on during the meal when not eating or drinking. We do not know if they had their masks on whilst they were kissing in the karaoke session.
This is just a theory. If you have a mask on all day and it's potentially collecting and covering up stuff that can hurt you, including the coronavirus. While you're eating, I see a lot of people like they'll pinch their nose, pull the mask down, eat, pinch their nose again, pull it up. It's like you're basically touching your face and the mask that might have a concentrated amount of something on it, like 100 times, right? I mean, I think that's actually like exacerbates the problem, no?
I don't think anybody thought through that part.
I saw this research, they were looking at stadiums and like baseball stadiums and how people take off their masks when they eat. But I don't think a lot of people think like it's not a great idea to touch the front of the mask that's literally collecting particles, right? And when you eat, you do that like many times subconsciously.
It is true.
Random thought. Although Yamanashi Prefecture is not subject to a state of emergency, Governor Kotaru Nagasaki asked at a July 20th press conference that people refrain from eating in large groups or with others for an extended period of time. In addition, he also called on people not to gather along the Tokyo Games cycling road race routes to watch the events, which took place in the prefectures on July 24th and 25th. The governor also asked residents, "Please spend the summer quietly with family and friends who you're usually with."
Yeah, only kiss them.
Exactly.
The Prefectural Education Board's Health and Physical Education Division told the Mainichi, "Well, we ate at a place that took preventative measures and didn't play for a long time, but considering the situation in the prefecture where infections are not subsiding, it may have been necessary to have refrained from doing so. But we didn't give a shit, so get any smokes?"
Yeah. People just slowly, more and more not caring. I mean, hell, if you're in the country that's hosting the Olympics too, I mean, don't you want to, it makes people want to go out and do sports. It makes you want to go out and be active,
Well, and it's funny because, they talk about the Board of Education doing this golf outing, because they were doing it for the Olympics, but they didn't report about the other thing that they did just like the Olympics. All of the participants in the golf tournament got 42 condoms each.
Oh, really?
Yes, they all had the governor's picture on them.
Are you serious?
Of course not. Want to see the governor's nose get real big?
I was gonna say, it was a joke, but those kinds of things can be quite believable here. I mean, at this point too, with the state of things everywhere, stuff just doesn't surprise me anymore. And up next on Tokyo Panic Room, we'll be talking about the Tokyo Olympics and whether holding the games were a good idea or not.
Uh-oh.
You're now listening to Tokyo Wave. Tokyo Panic Room. All right, so Tokyo Olympics, good idea or not good idea? What do you think?
I have to say, seems to be working okay.
Yeah. We haven't had any major bad things happen yet. I'll admit I was anti having the Olympics here in Tokyo for a while. After watching the opening ceremony, it got me really excited and reminded me of a world where we don't have coronavirus, right?
I don't know if you've done this, but I'll be looking at old videos on my phone and I'll be stopped in my tracks. Oh my God, no one's wearing a mask.
Dude,
I look at the date.
When I'm watching movies even.
Nobody's wearing a mask. What's wrong with these people?
Yes. Especially because we're in Japan, right? And everyone wears masks here. Especially if I'm watching like a movie that takes place in New York City and people are walking around with no masks. It's like shocking. I've become so conditioned to see people with masks on everywhere. So,
when you remember a couple of years ago when we moved to this new office in Harajuku, which is where we record our podcasts, we had this huge party with like 100 people.
Oh, yeah.
And this office is not small, but it's not big either. So with 100 people, it was cramped. It was packed.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
You look at the photos from that event, it's like, I don't want to do that ever again.
That's a corona disaster, But that's how it was, especially here in Japan, right? Notoriously, the spaces are a lot smaller, even at like really nice clubs and venues. So you're in really close proximity to people when you're out and drinking or just having a good time. Yeah, it's just wild to think about that. I think there's going to be so much hesitation when all this is over to go back out to like your favorite hookah bar in Tokyo, where everyone's like in a small, tiny room, all smoking and blowing hookah everywhere. So,
Yeah, I would not want to be in that business right now.
Yeah.
But, back to the Olympics, obviously there's a lot of criticism of the games as they're going on. They're still going on as we're recording this right now, and they'll be almost over by the time you're hearing this. But it's difficult because we do see a lot of sort of, half measures and criticisms of the sort of less successful elements of the anti-infection measures, such as the so-called Olympic bubble. People are always criticizing right now about how the volunteers are, in the bubble, but they go home, which is outside of the bubble, and, talk to their family and have dinner and kiss everybody at karaoke parties, also outside the bubble.
Yeah. That is something to be concerned about. I think no matter how they did it, though, there's going to be a certain amount of exploits that exist. I'd say, though, the way that they're handling it now is really good, though. I really applaud the people helping out with the Olympics and holding them, and the athletes themselves for putting up with such strict security measures.
And even thus far, the Olympics has definitely gotten people's minds off of the gloom and doom that is the coronavirus pandemic, especially here in Japan, where we have been winning a shit ton of medals.
Oh, yeah.
Especially the gold ones.
How many so far?
I think over, let's see what the latest medal count is. Oh, that's not good.
What's
so
that?
As of today, China has trumped Japan, no pun intended, with 17 golds versus Japan's 15.
15 is still a lot. What about the U.S.? They've got
14.
14 for the U.S.?
Yeah. The U.S. has been getting a lot of silvers. They've got 16 silvers versus Japan's 4. And the U.S. is the second place in a lot of things these days. Like coronavirus infections. Oh, no, we're number 1, I think, on that one.
Yeah, especially the state of Florida. I will say, though, one really kind of bummer thing is we call it soccer in the U.S., but football for the rest of the world. Watching that at home, oh my gosh, man. I want to be at a bar, watching that with a group of people. I've even resorted, I go on like a Discord server and I'll watch it with a group of people because it's just so much fun to watch that sport with a group.
Yeah, I think football is like one of those things that I can't really watch seriously unless I'm hammered.
Yeah, you got to be hammered with a group of people and screaming at the TV.
Exactly.
God damn it, goal! There's something so brilliant about that sport and how long it goes on for, too. I feel like it's just the right amount of time to like basically allow for any kind of crazy, chaotic thing to happen.
No, I think that they have, perfected the science of the length of a football match to be just long enough for the fans to get drunk and rowdy enough to have a riot afterwards.
Yeah, and want to kill each other. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
It's down to a science for sure.
So lots of things are going on with the games. And of course, with that, there are a lot of criticisms. We're going to talk about some of the good things and some of the bad things. So just recently, Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga, who is, of course, seems to be having the least good of a time related to the Olympics, as his approval rating continues to be low, even though we're seeing so much good coverage of the games on TV. He recently denied any link between the recent surge in coronavirus infections in Japan and the holding of the Tokyo Olympics.
Suga told reporters when asked if there are any indications that the holding of the games is a factor behind the spike in new daily infection cases, quote, "Since we have imposed virus curbing measures, such as cutting the flow of people in public and stricter border controls to prevent the spread of the virus by foreign visitors, I think there is none.
Strong. Long. But is it true? Still, Suga encouraged people to watch the games at home to avoid the greater risk of contracting the virus by gathering in groups to watch the games, including at locations such as sports bars. So that idea you had, Aaron, don't do that, says Prime Minister Suga.
Damn.
Wink.
Kyoto News reported that sales of official Tokyo Olympics merchandise, such as badges and keyrings, surged as Japan's impressive medal haul grew, with fans queuing outside stores to buy them despite mounting COVID-19 infections.
Who cares about the COVID? I needed my keychain.
I need my shoes, the 2020 shoes.
You know, have you looked at the 2020 merchandise? Some of it's actually pretty cool.
Dude, it looked, they killed it on the design. I was buying some athletic shoes because, I run all the time, about a year ago. And the Tokyo 2020 branded shoes looked so freaking cool. They had such a cool design aesthetic going.
The thing that I want to get the most is there's a 2020 yukata.
Ooh.
I mean, isn't that something you could put it on whenever you want to be ironic at parties?
Yeah, for sure.
Remember this year? Screw you, man. We're going to just dump beer on you until you die. Then 2025, right?
I wonder if there's a 2020 toilet.
Well, I hear there is a lot of those 2020 condoms, but they're limited edition.
Ooh, yeah. Will break.
Oh! Well, I hate to continue on the subject of prophylactics, but that, of course, there's sort of government-sponsored condoms, basically, right?
And that you're not joking?
I'm not joking. So they're
okay.
probably made by the Okamoto Condom Company, who is world famous for making the world's thinnest condom.
Oh.
0.01 millimeters.
Oh, 0.01. Oh,
is that a feature or a bug?
That's why at the 7-Eleven, 0.01, yeah, I've seen them all over the place. Because I'm constantly searching for condoms. Not... So that's what that 0.01 means on those boxes I buy every night.
I thought that was the probability of the chances I got getting laid. Hey,
it's so easy.
So while public skepticism about holding the games during a pandemic was strong when the games officially opened on July 23rd, many people in Japan appear more keen to get a hold of these trinkets of what is likely to be a once-in-a-lifetime event, especially as Japan has so far stayed near to or at the top of the gold medal count.
The official online store, which sells goods ranging from apparel to Japanese traditional crafts, even became temporarily inaccessible due to a traffic surge.
An official shop in Tokyo's Shinjuku district was stocked with some 1,700 items in all, but popular goods such as pin badges and mugs quickly sold out after the games got underway.
The store, which requires visitors to undergo temperature checks and sanitize their hands, was packed recently with customers bumping shoulders in order to purchase Olympic items.
During weekends, there were long lines outside the outlet, despite the Japanese capital being under a COVID-19 state of emergency.
So as Japan's gold medal count increased and TV programming became dominated by Olympic competitions, the snapping up of merchandise could indicate a softening of sentiment in Tokyo and elsewhere.
A 47-year-old man who visited an official merchandise store in the central Japan city of Nagoya to buy a present for his child said, quote, "After watching the event, I became excited."
Official Olympics merchandise stores sometimes saw days with no sales at all last year, but on July 23rd, when the Olympics formally kicked off, stores saw hundreds of customers making purchases. What a good business opportunity just to drop ship a lot of that stuff,
I'm actually thinking about picking up some swag right now.
Me too.
I want to get that yukata.
Get the yukata. I'll get the shoes.
I want people to pour beer on me in 5 years. What can I say? In Sapporo, on Japan's northernmost island of Hokkaido, where the marathon and race walk events will take place over the final 4 days of the Olympics, an official outlet did not see many customers when it first opened shop in May, but the number picked up in time for the start of the 17-day games. One thing, race walking. What in the hell is that? Do you have any idea what this is?
No.
Where they just like walk really fast? How is that a sport?
What we call it like power walking in the States, right?
Race walking. I mean, maybe that's how we're going to get to become Olympics and get 42 condoms.
Yeah.
0.01 millimeters.
What are you doing today, Bill? I think I'm going to do some race walking. Well, what the hell is that? Sounds racist to me.
No, racist walking is what they do in Florida.
Oh my gosh.
And probably Tennessee. Definitely Alabama.
Yeah. A store in the western Japan city of Osaka said it saw fewer than 10 customers per day in June, but the number jumped nearly 10 times after the Olympics began.
According to the Osaka store, key rings with pictograms of Olympic sports such as basketball and judo are among their most popular goods, as performers in navy and white costumes forming poses to match the pictograms during the open ceremony garnered global attention.
You know, with all the new additions of the martial arts games, I want to see more kicking and more punching. It seems to be like... this is a very, very uneducated opinion speaking right now, as far as martial arts are concerned.
You want to see more ass whoopings?
Yeah, some Karate Kid style stuff. Like, where's the jump kick? You know, Street Fighter style. It's all wrestling. You know, our friend Ben could probably comment on this, but it's interesting to see they're just grabbing each other's clothes and trying to wrestle.
You know what the IOC needs? They need a redneck delegate.
Ooh.
Excuse me, Mr. Back. My name's Cletus. I'm the redneck delegate to the IOC. I do not know what that stands for, but on behalf of the rednecks of the world, we want more sports with ass whoopings in them.
And if you could all get some explosives, that'd be great too.
I heard Kim Jong-un needs a whole bunch of them as he don't have no more buildings to blow up. Why don't we use those? America could make an explosion, then Japan could make another explosion. We'll see which one's the biggest, and then they're going to get the gold.
This going to be a new sport. Now North Korea can actually compete and maybe win some medals.
Oh, burn.
So I'm sure most of us have heard about the infamous cardboard beds in the athletes' village. They've captured some attention recently with a video of 9 Israeli Olympians jumping on the so-called anti-sex bed until it breaks, which went viral on social media.
According to Kyoto News, the now deleted video in which the athletes test the strength of the recyclable cardboard bed frame was uploaded by Ben Wenger. What a name. A U.S.-born baseball player on the Israeli Olympic team. He posted videos to his TikTok and Twitter account on July the 26th.
In the video, 1, then 2, then 3, up to a total of 9 athletes jump on a single bed until it breaks. The beds were designed to support weights up to 200 kilograms, according to manufacturer Airweave.
The video has since been deleted but has drawn lots of angry responses in Japan. According to local reports, it was removed at the request of the Israeli Olympic Committee, the other IOC.
It's not funny at all. As a Japanese, it makes me very sad, said one internet comment.
I don't understand why anyone would destroy something belonging to someone else, another said.
Many other athletes have taken to social media sites to share their opinions on the now infamous bed.
Infamous bed.
I mean, how could they not expect people to do something with the beds? I mean, come on.
Well, I mean, it's a cardboard bed. I mean, it's a novelty, right?
It's a novelty.
It's made out of cardboard.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be supporting the weight of Olympic athletes who tend to be all big and muscly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And they also, get 42 condoms each usually. So cardboard bed frame's gonna raise some eyebrows, I'm kind of thinking, right?
Oh, for sure, for sure.
So there's been lots of controversy around these beds as a result. For instance, American distance runner Paul Chilimo wrote on Twitter on July 17th that the beds were, quote, aimed at preventing intimacy among athletes. Chilimo, among others, dubbed them anti-sex beds.
The following day, Irish gymnast Rice McClanahan debunked the rumor that the beds easily break by filming himself doing a test jump on the bed on Twitter.
McClanahan says in the video that has been viewed more than 3.8 million times, in today's episode of Fake News at the Olympic Games, the beds are meant to be anti-sex. They're made of cardboard, yes, but they are apparently intended to break under sudden movements. That's fake news.
You know what I'm thinking is like all the Olympians get like a text message at the same time about the cardboard beds, and they're all in like some group chat, and everyone starts like laughing their ass off. They're like, they don't even know we all fuck in the shower. Like, these, I don't know. Just, these beds are going to do nothing. And it's just, this is probably the worst PR that Japan's got so far, I think, for the Olympics.
Well, and it's funny too, because if you look at the bed, have you looked at the beds? Like,
oh yeah.
The frame is cardboard, yes. But on top of the cardboard frame is like a foam mattress.
Yeah, yeah.
You know where else you can use a foam mattress?
Where else?
On the floor.
Oh, that's right.
So, I mean, even if the cardboard frame were to break, I would imagine they've got a spare, around somewhere. I mean, they're made out of cardboard. I guess they made a bunch of them, right?
And we're talking about Olympic athletes. You think these guys do it the same way normal people do? I don't think so. I think they've got a lot of creative ways up their sleeves to get the dirty done, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be hindered by cardboard.
Yeah. If anything.
I mean, they are at the top of their game.
Yeah.
They've trained their entire lives to go the distance.
I'm surprised there's not videos of people like, these guys were jumping on it, right? But I mean, like, just totally destroying the beds, like with a knife or something, just out of like spite and just kind of being pissed off, like, this is bullshit.
Well, I mean, but as Olympic athletes, it's they know it's going to make headlines, right? Which is why you think about this guy who posted it on Twitter and TikTok. It's like, did he not realize that he was kind of going to screw over his entire country's team with the antic? I mean, sounds like fun, but did he really have to post it on social media?
Yeah. You, at the opening ceremony.
Yeah, jumping on the bed with the bros. I mean, that's literally what it was. That's what it was a video of. He posted that online, to score some W's. Well, unfortunately, he got some L's.
The opening ceremony, though, most of the teams, every single person had a cell phone, right?
Oh, yeah. And they were like, they're like doing selfies. Honestly, that part of the opening ceremony kind of pissed me off.
Yeah.
I was like, selfies? Seriously? Can they like do that not on camera? It's like, it's distracting.
It's their side hustle, man. They've all got, I'm sure all of them have a crap ton of followers. And those who don't are like,
look at me walking down in the stadium. Look, there's nobody around me. Hoo-hoo. Yeah, we can see it on TV, you assholes.
Yeah. I don't know. This is more Gen Z kind of stuff, right? I mean, they're really young. These Olympians are super young.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that just going to be a thing? People just take selfies of themselves like all the time. Like you'll be in like an important business meeting. And all of a sudden, like you'll be talking to like the senior vice president of derivative sales. And all of a sudden he's like, excuse me, I need to pause for a 30-second selfie break.
Always on the cell phone. Yeah. No, man. I mean, this is almost 10 years ago now.
But yeah, overall, Olympics, good thing, bad thing?
So the situation or the issue you mentioned about the bubble and those volunteers, technically going in and outside the bubble, That's probably one of the most unsettling things I've heard so far. But overall, I mean, man, they're really the security is crazy. We know the Olympians are in these hotels; they're not allowed to leave, and there's a lot of security around the Olympic Village as well. And you see when they were doing gymnastics, they were spraying everything down, right? It's like they're disinfecting everything, like after every second. On that front, I think they're doing a great job, and I applaud them for that. And it is really good to see, just to be completely honest, a democratic nation holding the Olympics in the middle of a pandemic when we have a lot of doom and gloom, and this is giving us something, to look forward to. And I applaud the athletes and the committee and even the volunteers for helping out to make these games happen.
It's something that I think was inevitable. I mean, Japan spent over $15 billion to make these games happen.
So depending on who I talk to, that number keeps changing. Like I remember I was somewhere and this girl was like, it was 48 billion. Like I think everyone has a different billion in their mind of how much it costs.
Well, I mean, I think we can agree on one thing. It's a shit ton of money.
Yeah, exactly.
And Japan has been trying to make them happen one way or another for the past year plus.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they are getting them to happen successfully.
Yeah.
Cool. My main question, though, is, I mean, whether good thing or bad thing in the present tense is kind of water under the bridge because they're happening anyway.
Right.
But the question that I'm more interested in is how will they be looked at in, 5 years or even next year? But definitely, when we look back on the 2020+1 Tokyo Olympics, what will people say about it?
I mean, the Olympics have been going on for an extremely long time, right? It's kind of like a human tradition at this point since the start of, modern Western civilization. I think in the short term, it might be looked at as a bit irresponsible, but 100 years from now, I think it might be applauded. Like, even though they were going through that, they still had the Olympics. Because we look at wartime and whatnot in history, they still held the Olympic Games, right? And crazy stuff happened at some of those Olympics. So I think in the long term, it will be looked at as kind of a victory and an ode to the Olympics themselves.
We can only hope as much. I mean, obviously, Japan had these Olympics, and as taxpayers, we paid the bill. I hope it ends up being worth it, and I hope that the people watching the Olympics around the world will see these games as something that were nice, that were worth having, and make them want to visit Japan, because really that is the best long-term effect that they can have.
Right,
We've already seen, some research early in the pandemic that suggested that people really want to travel to Japan once the pandemic is over and travel restrictions are limited. But, given the situation with Japan's tourism industry and these empty tourist destinations, come on, guys, and also Japanese government, please lift these restrictions, because these entire industries are dying a slow and painful death until these tourists come back.
That's the big kicker, is if we already know the demand is there, right? On both sides. Industries are waiting for consumers, and consumers are dying to come here. I have to tell, a number of friends, probably 3 to 5 times a week, they all want to come to Japan. And the answer is that, the question that they have is, when are the borders going to open back up? But nobody really knows. Hopefully we can see a border open after the games. Hey, listeners, that's right. You listener right there.
Who do you think should be our next guest on Tokyo Wave? Let us know. Drop us a line at wave@tokyowave.jp.
We hope you enjoyed Tokyo Wave.
If you haven't already, you can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube.
Join us again next week on Tokyo Wave.